This evening, we're going to start straight into seated poses. We're going to take Sukhasana if possible, bringing the heels in towards the groin, shins down on the floor. Got to that time of year where finally you get my leggings off, you just use a pair of shorts. We'll sit up nice and tall. Wriggle out through the spine a little bit, rock it out, see how that feels. Try and relax the shoulders. They will allow the hips to open up a little bit more as well. Consider the position of your head. Try not to have your chin hanging too far forwards. Loosen the jaw off a little bit. You can take some gentle neck circles in there, or just taking some neck side bends as you're settling yourself in. Whatever you do, just allow it to be smooth and slow. Remember, as ever, you work with your breath, and if there's any sharp pains at all, that's a sign for your body to move back out. Take as many pit stops as you need this evening. You don't have to do the whole class. You can always adapt poses as well to your own needs. Including taking rests. Nothing better than taking a unrequested child's pose halfway through the class. Always a great idea. We start to get a little more settled, to feel the breath coming from really low down below the belly button, feeling the belly expand like a wave, just moving its way up into those collarbones. So as to get a little more active, by all means, swap the cross of the legs over if you find your knees and your ankles get a little stiff. Then if you're going to take that, once you've done that, we'll start with some wrist rolling. So just going to bring the forearms together. That creates a little bit of a shrug into the shoulders as well, which we want to try and keep and utilize. We'll just roll in the wrists around gently in lots of different ways. And we're going to do quite a bit of work today, so you want to give them a good chance to get some juice into those fibers. We'll release, just shake out the fingers a little bit. We'll bring the hands onto the collarbones, do some angel wings. So bring the elbows together so those elbows can touch. Again, just shrugging the shoulders around. On the inhale, you lift the elbows up as high and as far back as you can. Use the exhale to drop the elbows down in towards the side of the ribs, and then bring them across the chest low again, and inhale up. I do appreciate that on a man's physique, that's probably a little easier to bring the elbows together, but do the best you can. And we'll take that a couple of times in the opposite direction, and just really kind of listening to how the shoulders are working, the muscle fibers, whether they're a little bit sort of creaky, cracky, or whether they're running smoothly over each other and silently. Not too sure. The second one was a preference. Allow ourselves to just lay the arms out wide, shoulder height, and then lock the right arm across the chest with that left arm. Draw the shoulder blade around a little bit to the side. So as you breathe into the back of your shoulders, you feel an even deeper separation in the fibers between your shoulder blades and the spine. Well, release out of that. Take the arms wide and cross over to the opposite side. And we'll release from there. Untangle the legs. You may need to stretch the ankles out a little bit and then ease the knees open. So give them a little pedal. And then we'll come up onto all fours, moving the block out to the side. And take cat-cow as we arrive. Just drawing the chest forwards a little bit, tailbone towards the sky, tilting the pelvis, letting the spine ripple up towards the sky. Work with your own breath, maybe faster or slower than mine. And if you need to, allow yourself to breathe in the opposite way. So you might want to breathe in, lifting up, and exhale forwards. As long as you're breathing, that's really kind of the key thing to get here. Coming to neutral, allow the knees to go wide as the mat, toes touch. Coming onto the heels for child's pose. I'm going to simply walk the hands out. Allow them to stretch as far forward as you can as you breathe in, looking towards your hands. Coming straight into a side bend over to the left side. Now the ribs and the thighs to make contact. Walk your right hand just another ½ an inch forwards or as far as you can to feel a big stretch from the tip of your fingers all the way down the inside of your arm, down your armpit, down the side of your body. Breathe into those ribs. Slowly lift up. We'll cross over to the other side. Walk the left hand just that little further forwards. That little pick up of the fingertips. As you exhale, let yourself travel back into the center. We'll come slowly back up onto all fours and bring the knees back underneath. Now take a little breath and just tuck the toes of the right foot underneath and lengthen that leg out to press out through the heel. As you press down through the shin of your left leg with the bootlaces facing the floor, you're going to lift the leg to about the height of your hip, toes pointing down, and then slowly take your right hand out in front. And continue to press down through the hand that you're resting on and the shin into the floor and stretch out through the opposite two limbs until you can start to feel your abdominal muscles joining in and activating. So you have to press out quite a long way. we'll bring the hands down to the floor, knee to the floor. Cross over. Still try and keep the body on the center line. So be aware of where you are, space and time as you lift, pressing down through the right shin. And eventually, in your own time, taking the right hand out. So looking towards the fingers, so the chest is lifted a little bit. We press away from the floor. The body is lifting away from the ground rather than collapsing into it. The muscles are doing the work rather than the joints. We'll bring everything back down to the floor. Knees to the ground as we tuck the toes underneath and ease our way back into down dog. Allow the legs to just pedal out a moment. Hopefully, with the class in the evening, we've had the opportunity during the day to open the body up and get it a little looser. I appreciate that some people may be having to sit at the desk for long periods of time, but hopefully you've taken the advantage of getting up every sort of hour or so and having a little bit of a stretch around and moving about. So the legs are a little bit more open than they would be first thing in the morning. Now we're going to allow ourselves to start to pedal and walk the feet in towards the front of the mat. You want to try and bring the foot forwards a couple of inches to the opposite foot each time. It's a slow inching process of moving in. We're still pedaling through the legs and trying to straighten the legs out, lifting the hips high. Gradually you get to a point where the heels come to the floor. And we're still lifting the hips high and folding it. We're still trying to pedal the legs a little bit. So you need to lift the heel and bring the foot in and then gradually walk it in to the front of the mat. A little waddle for the last inch or so. We'll take a little breath and bring the hands onto the hips, soften the knees and a flat back to lift. We'll take it all the way to the sky and then take it into a little back bend as we press the hips back and the feet down. Bring the hands in towards your heart. Allow yourself to hinge over the hips, down to the floor. Allow yourself to ease your feet back, just a few inches at a time, just waddling back in into your down dog. Keeping the legs straight, just lifting the feet a little bit, inching your way back. We'll continue to inch our way back and bring ourselves into a plank. Now, shoulders are over the wrists at this point. We'll lift the hips high, move back into down dog. Come forwards into the plank again. The exhale. And then lift the hips high, back into down dog. Come forwards again. And let ourselves lift into the down dog. At this point, we're going to bend the knees. So the thighs are more or less vertical to the ground, and then roll the spine up in a wavy version into the plank. And then lift back into the down dog. Soften the knees again. Wave into the plank. And move back into the down dog. Then the knees. Wave our way through. And back. Now this time we're going to walk the hands in towards the toes. Now, as you arrive, allow yourself to take your feet as wide as the mat. Turn the toes out a little bit. Sit down as low as you can into a squat. Let your body sink through the center so the head is low and the shoulders are hanging. And then we're just going to drive through the legs. Roll our spine back up slowly. As we take the arms out wide, we'll zigzag the feet back in underneath the hips and bring the hands together. Take ourselves into that little back bend. Bring the hands through the heart. Exhale down to the floor with a little softness in the knees. And then walk the fingers in to the front of the mat, to down dog. As we arrive, we come forwards into plank. Drop the knees to the floor. Keep the toes tucked under as we ease our way back. And sit onto the heels. And breathe. Let the shoulders relax a little bit. If you need to give them a bit of a shrug, that feels more natural, that's fine. But if you're able to sit still, that works as well. Primarily, we're just trying to stretch the toes out, getting the thighs a little bit more used to the idea of being into a deep stretch and taking some workload as well. Now allow ourselves to come forwards onto all fours so we can untuck the toes. Press the bootlaces into the floor, lift your knees an inch away from the ground. Push your hands into the floor and allow your abdominal muscles to draw in. Keep the head in line with the rest of your body, shoulders wide, spreading out. Last breath. Use your exhale to lower the knees to the floor. Knees a little wider, toes together, sit onto the heels, draw the hands towards you, float them out to the side. We're going to come into a swan float. So the hands link together, index finger points towards the sky, and we lengthen out, draw the belly in, use an exhale to come down, bring the hands to the floor, head to the ground, take a breath, and then on the exhale, just round the spine back into a seated position. You can draw the hands along the floor. And then we lift ourselves back up again. With plenty of height. Draw the belly in and exhale. We try and keep the tailbone pressing towards the back of the mat. Hands always directly above the shoulders. Till the head comes to the ground. Take a breath. It's a round spine to come back. Inhale high. Link up. All the way down. Breath in. This time, separate the hands to that shoulder distance apart. Lift yourself up onto all fours. Allow ourselves to move gently back into down dog. And then float into the plank. We're going to take a half plank, pushing forwards on the tippy toes. Then allow up dog to take place as we inhale the shoulders back. Lift the hips towards the sky and back into our down dog. Soften the knees again. Plank wave as we come forwards. Lift up high, back. Knees bend. Draw the belly in on the exhale and way through. Lift slowly back. Yourself to bend the knees. Flow through gently. All the way back. Got about another 30 seconds or so. 15 by now. Allow yourself to come forwards on the tippy toes. Sit back onto the heels. Draw the hands behind you. Inhale your chest towards the sky as you roll the shoulders back. Allow the hips to lift up towards the sky so the boats come a little off of the heels. Then sit them back down. Draw the belly in. Swoop the arms up as you breathe in and extend out again into that sort of warm flow down to the floor. And take a breath. Roll the spine back on the exhale to the hands behind. Draw the belly in, chin in towards the chest. Lift the hips towards the sky. Get a good stretch for those hip flexors. Heels come back down. We lift. Inhale high on the breath. And exhale forwards. And take a breath. Use the exhale to roll slowly back up. Hands all the way to the back again. Ourselves to inhale a little breath and then use the exhale to lift the hips, roll the shoulders back. Inhale as you come back up again. Allow ourselves to lengthen out to the front of the mat. So the hands about shoulder distance apart. Lift yourself gently up onto all fours. Bring your elbows to the ground. Bring your hands together and interlace the fingers with that little finger tucked underneath. Press away from the ground through the forearms. Lengthen each leg back. And bring your hips to about where you think the height of your shoulders happens to be. Push out through the heels. Feel the legs fired up completely. Hips are more or less in line with the shoulders. Press down through the forearms to lift the shoulders as far away from the floor as we can. We get that nice feeling of spreading the shoulder blades out wide across the back. Let the knees come back down to the floor, underneath the hips. We'll tuck the toes underneath, and as we sit back, we'll pick the block up and place that behind the feet. So roll gently back into a squat. Lift the knees. Heels make contact with the block. Take the feet out wide, into your squat. Bring hands in towards the heart, or keep the fingertips on the floor, whatever feels more comfortable from a balance point of view. Belly drawn in a little bit, peel the shoulders back. Don't have to be absolutely rock steady. I tend to sort of move around and wriggle about through the spine and a little bit into the hips as well. I'm shifting the weight through the ankles constantly. It may look like I'm still, but there's actually a fair degree of movement going on, as well as what naturally gets created movement-wise from your breath. Let the hands come out wide, away from the floor if they were on there. And then slowly drive through the legs. As you lift up, allow your hands to come up above your head to touch. So bring your hands back out to the sides of your body. Lift your heels off. Bring them onto the floor, hands into the heart. Allow yourself to hinge down to the floor. We'll just pick the block up and move it out to the side so it's out of the way. Bring hands onto the hips then and soften the knees a little as you lift up, and we'll shake it out as we walk into the very front of the mat. Feet hip distance apart, hands in towards the heart. We take a breath and we hinge down to the floor, drawing the belly in, softening the knees a little, fingertips on the floor. We're stepping the right foot to the back of the mat into lunge and dropping the heel onto the ground, ready for a warrior two lift. Dynamic version, we bring the hands alongside and stretch out that right arm in line with the torso to take the lift. We'll take the arms all the way to the sky and float that back down to the floor. We'll step it back into down dog. On the next breath in, we'll travel into plank. On the exhale, half plank, leaning forward a little. Inhale for up dog, rolling the shoulders back, lifting the hips up high into that down dog. Scissor the right leg. Draw the knee in towards the chest and bring the foot through for the lunge. A breath here as we push off the toes on the exhale into a forward bend. Hands onto the hips and we lift up. Inhale high, hands into the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Second side. Take a breath. Right foot, sorry, left foot back. Oops. Heel onto the ground. Lift ourselves up into our warrior two. Got carried away and overshot it. Inhale, hands high and down to the floor. We go slow and long. Stepping back into our down dog. We'll come forwards into the plank, half plank and up dog. And from down dog, we'll take the breath and scissor the left leg. Bring the knee in towards the chest. Release the lunge. Breath on the fingertips. Push off the back toes on the exhale into the forward bend. Hands onto the hips and we lift. Inhale high. Hands into the heart and exhale down to the floor. Taking the right foot to the back of the mat. Check your front knee is over your ankle. Find your balance as you bring both hands alongside your body. Allow yourself to extend the hands out. Lift halfway up. On the exhale, send your tailbone downwards to lift your body the next half to the vertical. To the floor, back into lunge, drop the back heel down and lift into warrior two. Inhale high, extend it out, down to the floor. Stepping back into the down dog, we'll rest for a breath. Inhale to plank, half plank, up dog, and down dog. We'll scissor the right leg again, as high as we can. Draw the knee in towards the chest, bring the foot through. Take a breath in, push off the toes, forward bend. Hands onto the hips, soften the knees and lift. Inhale high. Hands in the heart. Exhale down, you know what's coming, second side. Left foot back into the lunge. Find your balance point as you bring your hands alongside your body. Draw the hands forwards, lift halfway up. The end of the next exhale, turn the tailbone down, lift your body to vertical. Still pressing out through the back heel a little to balance out the effort through that front leg. Hands come to the ground, draw the back heel in, warrior two for the lift. Float the hands high. Lengthen out and down to the floor. Step it back into down dog. Half planks coming forwards. Up dog as you lift. Down dog. Scissor the left leg high. Draw the knee in towards the chest. Bring the foot through. Take a breath. Push off the toes into that forward deep bend. Hands onto the hips. And let ourselves lift. Inhale high. Hands through the heart and exhale down to the floor. Taking a breath. Right foot back into the lunge. Hands alongside the body. Float the arms forward. This time come all the way up. Take a breath. Drop the back knee half an inch from the floor. Let yourself lift back into the starting position. All the way down, close to the floor. Inhale back into your stop. Down for 3. 4. 5. And forwards again, hands to the floor, drop the back heel in. Warrior 2 for the lift. Inhale the hands high. Rotate out towards the front of the mat. Stepping back down into that down dog. A couple of breaths. We'll take the breath in to plank, half plank and up dog. We'll scissor the right leg high. Draw the knee in towards the chest. Bring the foot through. Push off the toes. Deepen into the forward bend. Hands onto the hips, so lift up slowly. Inhale high. Hands through the heart. Exhale it down. Breath in. Left leg back. Hands alongside the body. We float forwards and we lift up high. Take a breath. Use the exhale to come down. Inhale high. 2. 3. Keep it slow, follow your breath. 4. 5. Lengthen out to the front of the mat. Drop the back heel in. Warrior 2 for the lift. Inhale the hands high. Extend out over the front leg. Down to the floor. Into our down dog. No rest. Inhale to the plank. Come forwards half. Up dog. Breath in. Into the down dog. Flicking the hips high. Scissor the left. Knee towards the chest and foot through. Breath. Into that deep fold. Hands under the hips. Let ourselves lift. Inhale high. Hands through the heart. And exhale down to the floor. Take a little breath and step back into down dog. We'll come forwards into plank. Half plank. to plank, to dog, to plank, half plank, plank, to dog. Number 3, coming forwards. Half, to plank, to dog, 4th and final, through to plank, half plank, press, down dog, knees to the floor, pit stop, well earned, child's pose. Let the hands come underneath the forehead, elbows out to the side, relax those shoulders. Should be nicely warmed up by now. And set the hands forwards again. Let ourselves lift up. Tuck the toes underneath. Put the feet in towards the front of the mat. Bring our hands onto the hips. Let ourselves lift up. Inhale high. Hands above the shoulders. Soften knees and sit back into chair pose. Hands in towards the heart. Shift the weight into your left leg. Slide your right foot back into lunge. Drop the heel in, open up into warrior 2 and adjust if you need to. Extend over the front thigh. Forearm into the groin. Top arm up. We're just going to windmill that around. And we keep the chest pointing to the long side of the mat. And allow the arm to rotate around. Following the breath. Inhaling up. And exhaling out. And down. And next time we bring the hand towards the back of the mat, we lift up into our warrior 2. We turn the palm on the front hand, come into reverse warrior. Ease our way back to warrior 2 and straighten the front leg. Send the hips towards the back of the mat a little and ease into triangle pose. Again, we're going to take the top arm towards the sky, or if you prefer, wrapping around the back of your body towards that front side, your choice. Soften the front knee, come back into warrior 2, taking the hands high. Bring them forwards and onto the inside of the front leg. Spin the back heel towards the sky and just wiggle your toes a little bit further back so you come into a nice lizard position. Press your front knee into your front arm. Press through the heel. You can be up on the knuckles if those wrists are starting to feel the effects of our previous adventures. Okay, now time to walk the hands around to the long side of the mat, turning the toes with us. On the exhale, allow yourself to hinge at the hips and fold down. Arms on the floor, we can squeeze the elbows together a little bit, keep the shoulders away from the ears. Press your feet evenly into the ground, lift the tailbone high. Lift up halfway, and then allow the heels to turn in. Turn the toes in a little bit, bring heels in again so that the feet feel like they're more underneath your knees, toes pointing out to the side. And we're going to let the hands come away from the floor onto the thighs and lift ourselves up into goddess pose. Let's have to rock out a little bit from side to side if you feel the need. Reach forwards again, the hands to the floor. Walk your fingers around towards the front of the mat. Come back into a lunge. Take a little breath. Step into a forward fold. Bring the hands onto the hips again. Soften the knees, let yourself lift. Inhale high. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Exhale. Inhale again, taking the hands this time above the shoulders. And soften the knees into the chair pose. Let the hands come in towards your heart as you take the weight into your right leg. Send your left foot back into your warrior two. Allow yourself to open and adjust. When you're ready, extend out over the front thigh. Forearm just presses into the inner thigh as you take the top arm up. Start to take those windmills with the arms. So pressing down through both legs, feeling the inner groins and the abductors working on both legs. Come around one more time. Lift ourselves up into warrior two. Turn the palm of the front hand, reverse warrior. Come back into warrior two. Straighten the front leg. Extend out into that triangle pose. If the arm's getting a little tired, you can wrap the hand around the body. It's your choice. Try not to have too much weight into this hand, although it's touching the shin. The legs are doing the lifting. Lengthening the spine out of the pelvis and actually pressing the pelvis a little towards the back of the mat. We'll soften the front knee. Coming back into our warrior two, lifting the hands high. Bring them down to the floor on the inside of the front thigh. And just wiggle the back foot away to lower the hips a little more. Remember, press the knee in slightly on the front arm. Press the back heel away. Keep the head in line, shoulders out nice and broad, away from the ears. Keep the belly drawn in. Trying to walk the hands around to the long side of the mat again. And where the toes are turned in. Heels around. Take the hands a little wider than your shoulders, about 1.5 times. And then start to walk the fingers forwards. Allow your body to lengthen out. So you want to try and keep your hips in the same place on the mat as they were when you started to come into the forward lean. So we're not taking any weight into the hands, they're just drawing out. You can be right up on the fingertips if you wish. Press your feet into the floor and lift the tailbone high. Try to imagine a line between your hands, shoulders, and your hips. Don't need to come down any lower than that, just towards that place. Squeezing the thighs in gently as well as pressing the feet down into the floor. And then we'll walk the hands back in underneath the body and turn the heels in again. Then the toes and the heels again. It feels like the feet are underneath the knees. Allow yourself to squat your bottom down to about bum lining up with the knees. Bring the hands gently onto your thighs. Tuck the tailbone forwards a little bit. So pubic bone comes forwards. We try and get the spine as upright as we can. Take as little weight into the hands and the arms as possible. So your legs are shaking like jelly underneath you. If they are, that's okay. Mine are doing that as well. They've worked quite hard this evening. Slowly hinge at the hips. Hands back down to the floor and walk them around to the front end of the mat, stepping back into the down dog. Last one of the evening. Come into a plank and let the knees to the floor. Pivot the feet out to the side. Scoop the block up. Place it underneath your bottom as you sit gently back. Lift both feet out in front. Keep distance apart and just take the opportunity to wriggle through the flesh a little bit to get more onto the front edge of the sitting bones. Sitting up tall, we'll bring the right heel into the groin. Foot stays flexed, knee out to the side. We square the hips a little. Excuse me, got hiccups here. And we take a little bend into the knee. Press the heel lightly into the floor, flexing the toes back. You can bring the hands onto the shin. Take a little lift. And we fold forwards over the hips. First of all, let your belly come towards your thigh. On an exhale, let your chest drop down. On the next exhale, let your head align with the rest of your spine, so it's long and flat. Press your heel into the floor a little more and draw the heel back on that left side. And that straightens out the long leg a little bit. You can, if you want to, take your hands, palm facing it into the calf underneath, and press the hands very lightly into the calf. As a net effect, it's just squeezing your body down on top of your thigh a little bit more. Maybe you're still trying to press the calf into the floor, so you're offering some resistance, not just the ground. We can release, let ourselves lift up. And take the feet out again, hip distance apart to Dandasana, just sitting up tall. And we'll bring the opposite heel in, square the hips, Remember to bend in the knee. Foot flexed, toes towards the sky. Hands on the shin, we get space. And fold over the hips. Remember, it's bellies and thighs. That's all we need to get to start with. Take another breath. Layer the chest towards the shin. Take another breath and let the head follow the line of your body. Again, press the heel into the floor if it kind of floated away from you a little bit. Draw this hip towards the back of the mat. Allow the hands to come underneath the calf. Press very lightly, one against the other. And we can release. Let our way back. Ooh. Take the feet out again, back into Dandasana, just for a few seconds. I'm going to take the left foot underneath towards the outside of the right hip, from the knee pointing forwards. Bring the right foot across and close in so we can come into a seated twist. Can tilt the pelvis forwards a little bit to gain a bit more height. Take the left arm up and cross it over towards the right side. And then release. Bring yourself back. Cross over to the opposite side. Release. And back out. Come down to the floor. We're going to move the block out to the way. Going to take a couple of bridge poses, just floating through gently, not lifting excessively high. So bring the hands alongside the body, wriggle the shoulders underneath and the hips away, have the feet about hip distance apart, heels underneath the groin. Draw your belly in towards your spine, let the lower spine hit the floor, let the tailbone lift away from the ground, press down to the arms and the legs, take a breath at the top. And just roll the spine gently back down on the exhale with control and consideration. We'll take another breath in, draw the belly in as we exhale, the tailbone lifts gently, we float up into that in-breath. Roll the spine gently back down to the floor. Final lift, take a breath in. Roll the spine down, let the hips lift on the exhale. Try and keep the effort even through both legs. Breathing at the top. Roll all the way down. And then use your toes to walk your feet to the outside edges of the mat, then towards the front end. And do that no longer, simply slide the heels out. Legs roll open. Take palms to the sky. Loosen your jaw, and we're ready for Shavasana as you close your eyes. And begin to stretch those fingers and toes. And the wrists and elbows to gently rotate and move around as we breathe a little deeper into the body. Using that new source of energy, allow yourself to slowly and gently stretch out in any way that feels good. And in your own time, going to slide the heels along the floor towards us. To allow the knees to come into the body one leg at a time, keeping the spine nice and flat on the floor. You can roll the hips around a little bit, wriggle on the spine if that feels good. And one time when you're ready, from that hug, we'll roll onto the right side. Take a breath. Use the exhale to press the hands into the floor and roll ourselves back up gently to sitting. Into an easy posture. Now bring the hands in towards our heart as we close the eyes, taking a longer breath in. On the exhale, let the chin drop. Finding the belly drawn to the spine, we simply bow to the floor, sealing our practice. As the breath comes in back to the body, the spine is able to lift, the head follows, the eyes open. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me on the mat this evening. Hope to see you again soon.